Hello, everybody. And Dawn is here, but I think she might be on a phone call. She got a phone call right before we started. So I'm going to take over for now by my lonesome. And so today we are going to talk about, and I didn't even really get into this topic until recently. So I could have even been like a jury member because I didn't know anything about this case literally until 3 days ago. I only knew the person's name, Brian Kohlberger, and that 4 people were innocently slain in their off-campus home. And I knew that it was in Idaho. Other than that, I really didn't know anything about it. And hey, Pamela, how are you? Long time no see, lady. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing good. But honestly, I didn't know anything about it really for until 3 days ago. I had been so, I don't know. I just didn't know anything about it. I didn't take the time to ever read anything up on it or watch any coverage on it. I was living under a rock, basically. Hey, Adam. Hey, Joanna. And we have Pamela, who I haven't seen in a while. But I forgot she likes to view on YouTube, which is awesome that you're viewing on YouTube. It makes me happy that they're on YouTube because I want to grow that channel. So the more action that happens over there on YouTube, the better the channel will grow. And someday, hopefully, we could even actually get, sponsored or monetized or something like that because we'd have enough people. So, hello, everybody. And there's Dawn. You want to say hi?
Hi. Hi, Pamela. Hi, Adam. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Morty.
So, if anyone has any thoughts, because you guys have probably been exposed to this information longer than me, because I was telling everybody I haven't even known anything about this except like if I glanced on the front of a magazine, and that's basically all that I knew until 3 days ago. And then I spent most of the 24 hours yesterday and last night learning up on this, a little bit of the day before that, and I stayed up pretty late last night learning about the Brian Kohlberger case. I really didn't know anything about it. I knew a little bit about the Lori Vallow Daybell case.
Mom, but Dad, why are you going to tell?
Sorry.
Mama.
1 + 2 makes 3. That's what he wants me to tell you.
It does.
1 + 2.
Sorry.
Okay. We're doing math. We're doing math. Math at 8:04 p.m. before bedtime. Always do your math before you go to sleep. So go ahead. If you had something to say about it, because you were probably learning about it or into it before I was.
Oh yeah, I my mom and I, when I was staying with my mom, we watched podcasts on it every night on her YouTube, on her TV. So we were really, really into it. Watched Psychic Sleuth, and Mom and I both have abilities, and we were both kind of guessing, or not guessing, but comparing what we thought and what the psychic said, and then what information come out, and what our opinions were, and it was really, really neat.
She said he was just stalking one of the women that live in the house. I'm anxious to see what comes about of that with all of the warrants for all of the different platforms. And I think that it's going to be a little bit more than he was just simply stalking one of the girls that lived in the house. I haven't really gotten super duper fixed on a case of this nature in a long time. Really, the last person that kind of struck my interest was Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. I don't know, just something about his really pulled me in, everything about him and the whole entire thing, and all of the the people that he took all the photos of, that they released after he was convicted and stuff. And then some of those people, their family members came forward and said, this person in this photo you released has been missing. So it was assumed that he probably had killed all of these other people he didn't get convicted of. Or unalived. He unalived all of these people. He red rummed all these people that he hadn't even been convicted of because no one even knew that they were missing. But back to the BK case, Burger King, Brian Koberger. So what does your mom think?
She thinks that the roommate that seen him, she thinks that she knows more than what she's saying.
Yeah.
She thinks she probably sold him drugs.
I would say that's a possibility since he's an addict. He has an addicted history. Oh, we're talking about Brian Koberger, Joanne, sorry. We're talking about Brian Koberger, the Brian Koberger case in Idaho with the 4 students that were unalived off campus. They were all college students. And what's crazy is how long ago this happened. It was quite a while back, and I still I'd seen his face, and I thought, man, he looks like a sunken in demonic skeleton of like an empty soul, is what I thought. But that was all that I had any thoughts about it.
He's got hollow eyes. He's really, really weird.
Mm-hmm. I'll probably agree with that. He's an obsessed psychopath. I will probably agree with that. What's so crazy though, literally, at the same time, he looks like this. When you just look at him, he looks like this nerdy guy next door that you'd probably have as just a guy friend, not romantically, but just as a friend. But then you look deep in his eyes, and there's no deep there. There's no deep there. It's like, no, it's just a dead end in there. And then you find out all of this other stuff about his drug addictions. And when he said that he didn't have any feelings, even when he hugged his parents when he was younger, that he said that he had no feelings. He didn't even know what to do. Like, he'd hug them and just be like, I don't even care about them. I have no feelings. I am hollow inside. I'm completely emotionless. He had said on.
I know.
Yeah, I'm just like, honestly though, like, I don't know what would cause him to be that way. He could have always had some kind of like condition and just no one ever said anything about it. So maybe, when he was younger, did he not exhibit any forms of behavior that kind of seemed sociopathic? You know what I mean? That seemed narcissistic disorder or like, psychotic disorder, nothing?
Well, they say serial killers' brains are they have brain waves, different brain waves than the rest of us.
Yeah. They're supposed to be, not all of them are the same, though. I'm going to say that none of them are the same. I'm going to say that some of them are really similar, but none of them are exactly the same because I know that they do all these different studies to try to, like, take their, their brains probably after they pass away to try to, like, do all these different studies. But honestly, so many factors would go into play with the individual. Like, what if they had a head injury? Not every one of them is going to be the same. What if they had a head injury? What if they were molested or SA'd when they were young and other stuff that goes with being SA'd? Or what if they were depraved and they were beaten and they were stricken and there was, some kind of like severe punishment from one of their parents going on, or they didn't even know who their parents were and they were in some kind of, crazy dysfunctional foster moving around dynamic. There's like just so many things that can go on but I do find like one really common factor in a lot of them, not all, because some of them don't have any emotions, kind of like the Iceman. Kuklinski or whatever his name was. But like, isn't a lot of them? A lot of them just hate women. They hate women. A lot of them, and they're
Yeah,
acting.
that leads to what, incel.
Oh, like that could be one thing. I was kind of like interested in learning more about that because it gives you a new avenue to profile people with. Um, and I haven't seen any new genre, I guess you'd say, of profiling for criminals recently until I saw that. But like that would be like one of them. But that didn't even exist before. Like in the 70s and the 80s when you had Sam, Son of Sam, and you had the Hillside Stranglers, and you had Ted Bundy, and you had Rodney Alcala, and all of those other people out there, all serial killing all over the place around the same time. Within through the 70s, through the 80s, and up into the 90s, even maybe early 2000s. Like they didn't have that category of like stereotyping or profiling a killer. The incel thing is like, I don't know, it's like a slap in the face. Like, whoa, what is this?
No, that's just another thing us women have to look out for.
What? I should have known like somebody would say something like this. Are you attracted to serial killers? I am not one of those people. That is disgusting.
Nope.
Now, am I intrigued by finding out and unfurling or watching and like basically psychoanalyzing the person in the case? Yes. The person herself, like no magnetic pull toward them. No, not whatsoever. Not at all. Would I go interview a serial killer if I had the chance? Absolutely, probably. If I had, my wits about me and I didn't, there was some jail cells bars between us, I definitely would be like Clarice in Silence of the Lambs, and I definitely would be intrigued enough to go and like interview somebody because I would just have so many questions, but I would never want to date them or anything like that crazy girl that's like in love, proclaiming she's in love with Brian Kohlberger. Oh my gosh, no.
No, he's getting love letters and Charles Manson got married. And are these bitches crazy?
You know that one I don't remember. I can tell you next time because I can't really like tell you this time for sure, and I'm not gonna lie. But one or two different serial killers that were notorious that got convicted and put in prison, met their women in prison. One of them married the woman in prison. It was a redheaded lady. I can't remember her name. I can't remember which serial killer it was. But once they got out of prison, he went home and he freaking hacked her and her mother up. He killed them. No, thank you. That's okay. I do kind of want to live and raise my children and their children. That's
I
not.
know. I've never
Bad
been quite.
Lady Gaga comes to mind, huh?
I've never been that desperate.
Lady Gaga's Bad Romance song comes to mind. It's like, yeah, caught in a bad romance. I was thinking about rebranding the show. We should call it Bad Romance. Bad Romances. Thank you, Bean Bean. Thank you for that idea. Bad Romances or Poker Face. How about that? Poker Faces. Poker Facers. Yeah, I'm very interested. That's what I really basically meant. Like she described it and put it better in like such a smaller context. Very interested in learning about how these people got to that point. From
Pamela,
they were birthed into this world. What happened up until that point?
Pamela, there was a night before last. There was a podcast on YouTube about these women that
I'm intrigued by that. Also.
Write these serial killers, and or unalivers or whatever you want to call them. And they were
Bad
interviewing
romances, Dawn. They're
the
bad
girl that
romances.
is in love with Brian Kohlberger.
Yeah, and it's like usually a certain kind of women. I've actually kind of like researched that more than even this case. I've researched because I've always been intrigued with serial killers and like criminology. I actually started going to school for criminology, but I quit when Lincoln was born, basically, and I never went back to school. But I am really actually planning to go back to school pretty soon when I get my GI Bill money activated again, and I'm doing drills for something in this field, but not a 6 or 8 year program. But yeah, like I'm really intrigued, and I actually have thought about like I've been wanting to write a book for a while, but I haven't had anything deep enough or good enough to have enough substance to write a whole entire book. But I've thought about actually writing a book about women that fall in love with serial killers and collecting all the names of all those women. Like that, look, you said like Charles Manson got married in jail. There was someone else that got married in jail, I think, too, but it could have been just him.
Yeah, I think the guy that Brian Kohlberger is kind of is like. The guy that essayed women and killed them.
Which one? Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy.
Yeah. That's the first one I think of when I think of all of the fan letters and the women throwing themselves at the feet of this disgusting maggot of a human, in my opinion. Yeah. He's a maggot. And I hate maggots. But like Wayne Gacy too, yeah. But the first person that I usually kind of like that pops in my mind is Ted Bundy, because I guess that's the first time I heard that women were just enthralled by this evil person.
Yeah, Ted Bundy was disgusting.
And I do actually understand the place that they come from. I really literally understand.
Wayne Gacy was from Chicago, Illinois.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Like these women come from a very unhealthy, unhealed place inside. But yeah, maybe, in the next year or two, I'll put out a book about all of the heifers that we worship in psychopaths. What are we going? Which one? Charles Manson and Wayne Gacy. Do they not see what he looks like? Ew. I don't really necessarily think that Brian Kohlberger is a terrible looking guy. Just the fact that he looks like he would kill you in his eyes. How would you kiss someone like that? You know what I mean? You look at him and you be like, oh my gosh, I see the depths of hell in them eyes. I ain't gonna want to date somebody like that.
Yeah, his eyes kind of scare me. I'm not kind of. His eyes do scare me.
Lucky Charms away from serial killer. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes, I live near there at the same time. I think she's talking about Wayne Gacy.
He would creep me out if he was staring at me.
She said, I heard not heart, LOL. I think I knew what you meant, yeah. Because she hearted Charles Manson. She heard about the Charles Manson. That's funny. I heart Manson.
Charles Manson was one scary dude.
Now, I'm not going to lie. When I was in high school, I did heart Marilyn Manson and his music. But as I've gotten older, he has not aged very well. And he hasn't really done very well for himself as far as allegations and criminal activity either in the last few years. I don't think any of these women are attracted to these men. It's an obsession with the crimes or the killings. It's either that or it's actually like a sick, twisted, dark place inside these women that is aroused just almost the same way that those killers are aroused. Like they're aroused in some way because of their type of personality. They're aroused when they are committing the crimes that those men and not only men. Sometimes it's serial killer women. There are a few of those. Look up the Hillside Stranglers case, and like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, crazy. There was a woman that was in love with the first convicted of the two Hillside Stranglers, and oh my gosh, she was beautiful though. But like, I think that like most cases, if a forensic specialist comes in, I think that they talk about how excited, and they can actually verify that how excited that it makes the killer to like do this to these women. It makes them aroused, if you will, while they're doing that, or it makes them get some kind of like high, like an exciting like adrenaline rush experience, like someone like you or me might get if we're like, I'm riding a horse really fast, woo, boo moo buckaroo, and they're thinking like that kind of while they're like choking somebody out or something like that.
Yeah, Pamela, if we don't get, if we get enough done on this show about BK, we're gonna do a show next week on what's that woman's name that killed her kids?
Oh, Lori Vallow Daybell.
Yeah.
Well, she makes me vomit in my mouth for real. Like just looking at her, she looks like an evil banshee hag. Sorry, she does. That's mean, but there's plenty of YouTube channels on true crime and new horrific. Yeah, there's so many now. Hey everyone. Hey Debbie. How's it going? And I agree with Louie. Like these women, they see them as a groupie. Literally, they probably see them as a dime a dozen. And that's what someone tried to explain to that woman that is proclaiming the number one most popular kind of famous woman that's like obsessed with Brian. Her rationality behind being obsessed and in love with him doesn't even make any sense. So, but yeah, they don't realize this forensic pathologist called her out totally and was like, listen, girl, you don't love him. You are nobody to him. Do you even know how many women are throwing themselves at him and writing him letters and probably sending him dirty photos and all kinds of stuff? You know what I mean? That you're just one person in a line. Pick a number.
Well, there are some speculations that that's why he did it. Because he wanted the fan mail.
Yeah. Well, that's always been, and not anything to do with the incel thing that's kind of new that's surfaced about the typification of vengeful, chauvinistic, misogynistic killer that they're saying that they think he might be. But before that, there's always been kind of like, sort of in a way, like a twisted thought that like maybe that because their ego, that they wanted that kind of attention, that even some, murderers and serial killers leave clues behind on purpose just because it makes them feel like smarter, like they're smarter than everyone. They think that they're way more intelligent. They think that, they know more than all of the police and all of the forensic specialists and all of these people that have gone to school for years and years and years, decades combined, that they're smarter and better than all of them and that they're never going to get caught. And that I'm sure that plays into that like grandiose like ego boost when all of those women are like, oh my gosh, I love you. It's like, it's crazy. Casey Anthony's a terrible human being. Was a terrible human being.
Does anybody have any theories in the
I have seen some stuff about her, but I don't know anything about that case.
Some sort of law
If he's just somebody who killed her stepson.
He was a criminal. Was it criminal justice?
What? He was getting his PhD in criminology at that university, and he was also a TA, which is an assistant of his professors, a person that actually receives like lots of financial aid to cover most of their tuition and stuff, or maybe their spending money while they're there, or even their rent to live there on campus or off campus. He didn't live on campus, but like he was also a TA who was. This happened right before their finals were coming up. Like That was one thing that I started thinking about, that Kaylee girl is about to graduate and be finished with school. She was done.
Yeah.
She had put all of that time, effort, and like hard work into that, and then was unalived literally like a month, not even a month before their finals. Just like a month before their finals. And I don't know that final would have been her final. She might have had to finish the rest of that year out. I'm not sure.
No, I thought she was graduating
I think she was, because it showed
that
it
next.
showed all of these other people they were talking about graduation. So I think she literally, can you imagine that?
She was graduating like that
so
next
proud
weekend.
of her being her parents, being ready to go watch your daughter graduate college. And like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before her graduation, that happened. That's just, and she had
already moved out. She had already moved out.
Wait, was it her that moved out, or was it the other one, Madison? Was her name Madison Logan?
No, Maddie had moved out. She had already graduated.
Haley had
she
not
was
moved
going
out.
to graduate that next weekend.
Yeah.
She had already moved out. She was just there.
Honestly, they look so similar, and they are kind of similar, besides, like their names and their parents being different. It's kind of like hard to keep those two. Like, it's easy to get them two mixed up.
Yeah, well, they had been best friends for since grade school?
I think they said 6th or 7th grade, I think. I'm not sure though. Don't mark mark my word. Don't mark my word. And she said BK was some sort of law student, yeah. Criminology. He had already graduated from another university with, was it a bachelor's? I'm not sure. But he had already had some certification or some kind of degree before he came to Idaho, into that college campus. And he was going there for a PhD in criminology.
Well, he was going to, wasn't he going to Washington?
Is that where it was before? I can't remember where it was before.
He went to Washington to get his PhD, and he traveled to Idaho.
He was getting his PhD,
which is like 6 or 7 miles away.
Are you saying he transferred?
No.
Thank you, Debbie.
He went to Washington. That's where he was getting his PhD. It's like 6 or 7 miles from Idaho.
He's getting his PhD like right now
in Washington,
on that campus,
which is 6 or 7 miles from Idaho.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because they said he went to the same school as they did.
No, we didn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Believe me, I've watched.
It doesn't go with like anything else that I've seen or heard.
He went to a different school, a different college. They're like 6 or 7 miles apart.
Yeah, I know he didn't live very far away. Thank you. Left a like for it. Thank you so much, Louie. Appreciate it. It's also tragic for everyone involved. It is, and it's very easy to get lost in it, but at the same time, it's probably going to be a minute before they let any more information or the gag orders lifted. So we can only talk about what's out there already now and what everyone's speculating. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think he was involved with anyone in the house either, other than trying to contact them. If he did have any involvement, I think it was with someone that was deceased, because they have called it over and over again, like, signs of a crime of passion. And a crime of passion usually is personal. I'm like really, really, really interested in basically like every second of watching anybody that goes on the stand for this and all of the questioning. Like I haven't really, I've kind of like pushed off the Lori Daybell Ballo case because I think this potentially has lots of potential to be like the case of the decade. This is like going to be and is becoming and already is like the case of the decade. It's just
if they let cameras in the courtroom.
well, I don't mean even if they don't. This is already the coverage, the viral like outreach of this case is already so huge that they were talking about how that it would be impossible to get jury members that had no clue and hadn't heard about or already known about this case. They needed jurors that didn't know squat about it. And I was like,
there are people out there that don't watch the news.
Well, that's why like 3 days ago that would have been me. I knew his name, but I couldn't remember it. I just like remembered the B. Started with his first name started with the B, and I knew what he looked like, and I knew there was 4 people unalived, and that was literally it. So like 3 days ago, man, I wish I would have like been like, hey, I'll travel, put me on the jury. I don't know how that works. You know what I mean? You might have to live closer, but I literally 3 days ago didn't know anything.
I know a lot more about it, but I don't have proof of it, and I don't want to mention it because I can't remember if it's just crap that I heard or if if there was actually proof of it.
Yeah. Well, I will either write down or I will save any documentation, or like, if they're like, okay, like they brought in a very notorious, I don't know what her literal title is, but she's basically like a criminal psychologist. Very infamous, has written 60 books, and he took a course by her. He took a class by her. He was one of her students.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff, I would write down. Like, I didn't write down her name, so that's why I won't say her name, or I wasn't really going to plan to talk about her. But like, or any documents that have been like produced, I will screenshot them or save them in my camera roll. So what we could do is talk about, because we only have 20 something minutes left right now. Next week we can continue and actually show documents and give any update or developments that have happened in the last week. And then the next week we can do Lori Vallow Daybell case. Because I know way actually more. I don't know why. It's so less difficult and so much more simple, transparent, and easy to remember everything about the Lori Daybell Vallow case.
It's probably because you've been following it longer.
Yeah. From like the get-go, like for a while now. And I had
I've been doing this Brian Kohlberger thing since the beginning.
Yeah, I hadn't at all. I really didn't even have an interest in it whatsoever. And I don't know what I saw that made me kind of like getting, interested in it, so that, I would actually take the time. I don't know what changed, but maybe I just got bored with Lori Vallow Daybell because she's such a zombie. It's crazy that she goes around was telling everybody that there's zombies in the world and there's evil forces, and I'm like this, high priestess person that's gonna save everyone from them. But she's really literally actually the zombie to me.
She's nuts.
There's so many weird twists and turns in that case. Are you talking about the Lori Vallow Daybell case or the BK case?
She's talking about BK.
I don't watch the news, but I do watch true crime channels. If there's so many, does this make sense to you guys? I think that there are so many twists and turns in the case, but I think that speaks so much of his character. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like Lori Vallow Daybell was not smart enough to do any of that stuff on her own. Brian is. It's trippy how things can change for a particular person and how others just seem to snap. Have you ever seen the movie? I've not seen Falling Down. No, I haven't seen it. What is it on? Some kind of streaming platform or a certain channel? A recent stuff. Adam said he has recently, for the first time. I don't even know. I've not even heard of it. I haven't even really watched the murder special that's on Netflix. I do know like a little bit about it. Like I've seen reviews about it, and I have a friend that has watched it and done lives while watching it, and let the viewers pick it apart and stuff and interact. But I don't even know like if there's any specials out right now, like the Lori Vallow Daybell. There's been a show out about her and what she's done too. I haven't seen either one of them at all.
I don't have Netflix.
I don't use Netflix either. I have an account, but it's actually like frozen right now. I put it on hold so that they would, stop taking my money to use it for other things right now. I haven't seen or heard of Falling Down either until right now. Well, Adam, it's worth a watch. Pamela, me too, up until about 3 minutes ago.
I used to have Netflix, but then
I watched the Netflix Murdoch case. Yeah. What did you think about that? Sorry to interrupt you. You go ahead and say what you're. I want to know what you thought about that. The Netflix Murdoch case. Go ahead, Dawn.
no, it's just I used to have it, but
yeah,
I don't anymore.
I will say though, anyone that's actually wants to like learn, because it's gonna sound crazy, and don't think that I'm morbid, because some people in my life have told me that I had a thick, twisted sense of humor. Especially when I went to beauty school with all these, sussy girls, and they were like, "You're so weird," or "You're so twisted," and I was like, "Not really. I don't feel like I am." I'm actually kind of excited to have. It's like sitting down to a table and having a microwave sandwich, or sitting down to a table and having like an actual home cooked meal. Like before now, everything was a microwave dinner, but now that this Brian case and I actually started getting involved in it, like that became my home cooked meal. Does that make sense? To look forward to. Like there's something to actually look forward to in the criminology world. It's in the serial killer world, or in whatever kind of world that you want to call it.
Pamela, I think there's a lot we will never know too, because we weren't there when it happened. And the college kids, they're at such a young age, and they won't talk.
Also, I think it doesn't have only to do with like them not talking, but I think that they're so out of touch. Like they're from another generation. Does that make sense? Like they're another generation.
There were drugs there, and they're just they're not going to talk.
Maybe they don't incriminate themselves either for something that wouldn't even like be equal to what he did. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't want to ruin their lives and their college, if they have scholarships and all that other stuff. They don't want to ruin
it. They got to understand that murder, unaliving is not gonna. It's gonna supersede any kind of drug case, or the unaliving is they're not gonna get in trouble for any drugs. They want to know about the unaliving.
What do you mean? From a grown-up police officer standpoint, or from a teenage college student standpoint?
The teenagers need to understand that the cops want to know about the unalivings. they're not going to care about the drugs.
Yeah, but usually people don't typically, unless they're going to be in trouble for something far worse, and they're only coming forth with information about drugs or something like that as a distraction or a scapegoat, they usually don't offer the information up. Now, if someone is being interrogated for a murder, you bet your butt that they're all about throwing themselves under the bus about some drug charges to try to distract the officers in another direction with them so that they even seem more honest because they're coming forth with those charges. They'd much rather throw that up on the table, usually if they were involved in something. But like, no. If I was a teenager and I was going to college and I lived in my mom and daddy's home the whole time and I really didn't have any life experience, I might be afraid to tell anybody anything too if it was going to lead to me possibly in my own mind thinking that I might get in trouble for some drugs or something else, or that they might come back and say, why didn't you tell us that? And now it makes you an accessory or it makes you, look like you're lying. That's a lot of the reason people don't come forth with stuff, because if they didn't say it in the beginning, because of whatever state of mind that they were in when it happened, then they just don't say it, and it usually ends up coming out in the wash, though. Makes them look bad. But I do find it odd, and I do feel like there is some reason we don't know why she didn't call 911 when she saw him. She just thought he was a partier. I don't believe that.
I think I personally, I think the impression I get is she was high, she was drunk.
Yep, I do too.
She went back in her room, she passed out, she fell asleep or passed out, and then
because she was already asleep in a home and in bed at 1 a.m. If she was already asleep since 1 a.m., she had been asleep for 3.5 hours, possibly somewhere in that time, realm. If she was already asleep that long in a deep, drunken, who knows what else she had taken, stupor, she wasn't completely coherent when she saw him in the first place anyways. She might not have even freaking known, that he was a stranger. And I know in one report I heard that she said that she thought he was a partier. Just a partier that came to party in the house regularly.
So she opened up the door and told him to shut the F up. And then
that was the first time, though. It wasn't the third time when she was looking at him. When she saw him, she said she wasn't really scared. She didn't know to be scared. That she just thought he was a random partier or something like that. And just shut the door and locked it, because I guess that's probably just what she did when they had parties going on and she didn't want to be involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happens when you live with a bunch of people.
So I just shut the door and passed back out and being high and drunk and fell asleep. And
what I think they need to do is bring Dr. Doolittle in and interview that dog. He will know everything. He knows everything. Oh, yeah, they were in and out of that house a lot because they said that they didn't even know if the sneaker print was going to matter because so many people wore those kind of shoes in and out of that house. And that they actually thought that even in a video they had seen people wearing those kind of shoes, the sneaker print was initially believed to be, like what brand of shoe, which was a Vans shoe at first. But then they did say that when they took the stuff from his apartment, they found some shoes that they thought matched that print on the bottom. Or it might have been the shoes from his parents' house. I'm not sure.
There were so many rumors and stuff flying around at first that you just don't know what to believe. And I think that's why the judge put the gag order down, to keep everything hush hush.
I don't know if that's the same person that I'm thinking of, Louie. It's probably not. This is the guy that had part of his jaw or part of his face removed or taken away? Like part of his face was missing, or one of his eyes was missing, or something like that? Or is it somebody else you're talking about? Because that's what I was talking about earlier today with somebody. It might have been you on the phone. If someone has brain damage, they don't act correct. They don't act correct. Their brains don't empathize correct. Their brains don't fire off, like.
I have brain damage and I'm not out killing people.
No, but like some people might have worse head trauma. You know what I mean? Okay,
Yeah.
say I'm a psych. Okay, the cycle repeats. Say you're reading about one of these people that like abuse their children. There's a case that actually I can think of. What was the girl's name? She was locked in a closet her whole life. She was 8 years old, and her mom and stepdad let her live in that closet. They didn't keep clothes on her. They kept her in a diaper or naked. They raped her. Excuse me. They SA'd her. I'm sorry I said that. Hopefully we don't get hit for that. But they violated her in many ways, put it that way. They even let friends come over and do that to her. Well, by the time like her stepdad, they think that he got mad at the mom because she was cheating on him. He went and got the neighbors and said, I have something that I really need to show you on. He brought them over there, and they're going inside his house, and they're going to the closet, and they're thinking they're going to find this stash of cocaine or something, right? And they open the door, and they're like, the woman just loses it. She just loses her. You know what? She loses it. There's a little girl in there, and she just loses it and calls the police and turns them in. And come to find out, the girl that abuse and stuff that had been inflicted on her, she had brain damage and she had lots of mental issues. She didn't even know vocabulary. She hadn't been taught language. She hadn't been taught numbers. She was taught nothing. She had to learn that stuff all over again, starting, from the age of 8, going back to learn the last 8 years of what she should already know, and then get caught up with what she should, know after that. So that being said, she had a woman that adopted her that had actually wanted to take her in the beginning and took her from her parents in the first year of her life. And she was taken away and put back with the crazy parents. And then so she went back to this lady. She grew up. She turned out to be 18. She was an adult. She got a job. I think she moved out. Well, she turned out, like to be on Dr. Phil and all of these different things. And was like, I'm so grateful and thankful, and I want to be like, a sign of like resilience to other people, kind of like to show them not to give up and just like not to just give up on your life, that I've been through a lot and I want people to know that you can make it out alive. And then fast forward into the future, and she's getting arrested for SAing a girl that's underage. Right? So something was wrong with her brain to where she thought that was okay. And behaviorally, probably psychologically and emotionally, something was still wrong with her, where she said that she had learned to move forward and like learned from what happened to her and knew that it was wrong, but still something made her do that. Does that make sense?
That's sad.
Oh, it was very sad. It's so sad to see like the progress that she made and all of the fight that she did to get where she was, to resort back to her past.
That's sad.
To what happened to her. But that happens a lot. It happens all the time. All the time. Like, it's just crazy like how much that happens. Like, you don't ever know unless you really go like have a lot of free time, you waste it, and you go dig all this stuff up and research, and you like, wow, there's just so much crazy stuff going on. But like, yeah, she went and essayed some younger girl that's underage. I mean, I guess she turned out to be a lesbian probably. She had short hair, so I kind of thought she might be. But what I was kind of saying is like it depends on the person's level of like emotional, psychological, and physical damage to their head and their brain, because your brain gets changed by abuse. Verbal, mental, intellectual, physical abuse, any abuse that you incur affects your brain, and it changes your actual brain. So you were in an accident But if you weren't like physically beat the hell out of every single day or essayed and chained to your bed or living in a closet, then your brain didn't change the same way as theirs did.
Yeah.
Yours was a physical event. Theirs was psychological, emotional, and physical event.
Yeah.
Sense. So that's what I'm like kind of saying. Like, I don't think that Brian Koberger had that kind of life. I don't think that he had that kind of parenting or like situation growing up. It doesn't seem like it, but like some people did. So like it makes more sense. Not that it makes it right, but it makes more sense. Especially back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you didn't have all these people standing there talking about I have mental health issues, I'm autistic, or I'm like ADHD, or I'm bipolar. Now it's more acceptable and there's more people talking about it. Back then, it didn't exist to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like I'm bipolar. I'm bipolar. No, you're just a psychopath. you know, or manic depressive, or BPD, like borderline personality disorder, type 1 or 2, whatever. Like that stuff, there wasn't help for it back then. They just went out and killed people or did crazy stuff like started fires or I don't know, maybe they robbed people's houses or burglary. Mm. It is so sad. It is so sad. And I feel like there's not enough people that are empathetic towards the past. I don't think like the BK. I don't think that he should be side pardoned. I don't think he should be like no one should be leaning on him or anything like that. But I do think it's sad that the history repeats itself with a lot of people.
When we're talking about Brian Kohlberger, the or BK, the guy that killed the 4 University of Utah, the 4 college students.
In Moscow, Idaho. Moscow, Idaho. Um, like the thing that's the most, I guess, kind of like no, not BTK, but they have compared him to him, and I'm not sure why because I don't see as many similarities. I see similarities between Brian Koberger and like some. That's just my opinion, though, and I'm not certified to forensically pick anything apart or study anything or.
Well, the thing with BTK is, and Brian Kohlberger is, BTK's first killing was 4.
Okay, that's why they're comparing it. Because I was like, he bound his people, tortured them, and then unalived them. That doesn't seem to fit this pattern to me. That makes more sense. The 4, see, to me, what we talked about last week is very similar to this. And
BTK stands for beat, torture, and kill.
bind, torture, and kill.
Bind, torture, and kill.
I think that they might have also had another nickname for him. What else do they call him? I don't want to say the wrong name and be a different person. Hold on. Let me look.
And his daughter actually contacted him and asked him if Brian Kohlberger had contacted him, and he said no.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but you don't expect a serial killer to tell the truth, do you?
He doesn't honestly have a reason not to, though. He has nothing left to lose if he tells the truth. And if they both are unsympathetic to what they've done, then he has no reason to like emotionally or like psychologically have allegiance with Brian Koberger. So I don't think that he would have lied. Like they would have to go way back, and they're like so far in difference in age that couldn't happen. I don't know. According to Lori Daybell Ballo or Ballo Daybell, maybe they're reincarnated versions of each other. Who knows? Maybe he's an echo of BTK's soul or something. I don't know. It's just kind of crazy.
BTK is still alive.
Yeah, I see more of a case comparison to some other cases, I think, in my opinion. But I thought he had another nickname, but BTK is all that I can find. Is what they called him, but his name was Dennis. Now, I see similarities between him, but I mean, I think, everyone always has a similar belief that actually, like a lot of serial unalivers, have very similar patterns. And that's why people study it and want to study everything that they can about this person, about their history, their past, their, upbringing, their probably like their surroundings while they were growing up, like what happened, and then like their brains, wanting to like take their brains for science and like slice them, scan them, look at them, all of that stuff, to see the similarities. But I see in my mind, and this is going to sound totally random because I didn't even tell you this. Okay, this is going to sound crazy. I don't know who has watched the Scream franchise movies, but I'm extremely obsessed with them. Every one of them. Not as much the fourth or the fifth one, or the fourth or the third one, not as much. But anyways, the very first original one. For some reason, watching this case unfold and what I know about it is like very reminiscent of the first time I watched Scream, the original Part 1 movie. It's just like, I don't know. There's a lot about it that I don't know that I feel is really similar to Scream. There's a lot about it that I feel is really similar to Rodney Alcala. And there's a lot about it that I feel like is very similar to the Amityville horror family that was unalived in that house. Because if you look at the structure of the house, have you seen a diagram of where all of the people slept at and everything like that in the BK?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the same thing for the Amityville horror house and where they were all sleeping? Mm-hmm. Down here, down here, down here, up here. Like it was very similar. And it was like, how did these people not hear each other getting unalived? You know what I'm saying? But he left nobody to survive. The DeFeos, they were all gone. Yeah. There were no survivors to tell, except the one that did it, So, hey, yeah, have a good day at work. Or a good night at work. Bye, Morty. Or Mortally. Perfect storm. Yeah. I think she means like the situation is a perfect storm.
Makes you wonder why Dylan got left.
Yeah, but also the other girl that nobody is really hardly talking about, Bethany.
Yeah.
Kemper or whatever. Or BF. What was her last? I don't know her last name, but BF that lived in the basement. She's like the redheaded stepchild and nobody cares. You know what I mean?
Well, supposedly those two are in hiding.
I think that it'd be more like protective custody, probably. If you just want my honest opinion, they didn't even go to the funeral, and I don't think that was completely by choice. They would have gone to the funeral if they had the choice. But they're getting gouged at so much by even the surviving families of the victims that I think that they had to make the smart choice to not go to the funeral, and that they could possibly even be in protective custody. That's what happened with Ronnie DeFeo from the Amityville Horror. He was put in protective custody as a survivor of that incident. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I thought they pretty much knew he did it.
Because he lived in the basement. He was no. He was a survivor who lived in the basement. For real. Like, you should like look it up or like watch. Do you have a way to stream something if I send it to you?
Yeah.
Like basically a documentary about that.
What is it on?
It's the Amityville house, the incident that happened in that house, and him and his interview, and what happened, and how they figured out he was guilty, and not a victim.
If it's, yeah, I can watch it on my computer.
I'll send it to you. Watch it and just tell me like if you find any similarities in that, in this. It's really weird. Like I just see a lot of some of the same patterns. He used drugs. He used intravenous drugs, just like BK. I mean, they're like a sort of similar background, a different time and era, but you know the same. I found articles on the BDK Strangler, aka BTK Killer. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's very notorious. He was very notorious, like very well known. It's past our time. So next week we'll continue talking about this, but any developments that have been made in the last week, we'll give updates on. She will probably spend more time watching it than me.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
pay
saying
attention
you don't
to
have a life or anything
YouTube.
like that. I'm just saying like you've been following it this whole time and I have not. So you deserve more credit for the time put in on this than I do. But I'm going to provide screen sharing of the articles of the warrants and what was seized from the apartment he lived in, his parents, and his car and stuff like that. And I'll provide some other documents also. So
You're welcome, Pamela. Have a good night.
thank you everybody for watching. Appreciate your input. And I'm always open for more theories.
See you next week.
Good night. Keep it creepy.
All right.